Okay, so the shot of the assassin jumping off the building onto the car was done with several steps. First, what we did was we motion tracked the shot. We used PF Track to get a 3D motion track here, and here it is brought into After Effects with just two X's representing two of the exported null objects. You can see that they're a little bit shaky. It wasn't necessary to have it perfectly stable because the motion tracked part of him jumping is in the air, so it's fairly relative, meaning that we don't have anything sticking onto any surfaces, so we can have a loose motion track for that. So here are exported X's out of PF Track, and we'll go ahead and take those off here. And after that, what we did was we had this shot here of Zach falling from underneath. We had this plate of Zach going up and down, and this was pretty cool because I actually got to go back to my 11th grade physics class and remember and recall an equation that I had gotten for gravity. So you can see here that he starts to fall off pretty slow and then he starts to speed up. So the way that we did this was we took our position and we set an expression for our position here. So if we hit E twice, it's going to bring up our expression controls here, and you can see that we have this y equation set to 9.8 times time times time times 300. So what we did here was I know that the expression for gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. So basically he's going to fall at a rate of 9.8 meters every second times the time that we have squared. So in order to get time squared, we just set an expression here to equal time times itself, which is time squared, 9.8 meters. So the way we decided what a meter was I estimated the size of Zach, which is roughly 2 meters, and then found out what 9 would be, and that was, we found to be about 300 pixels. So that's why we times it by 300 pixels, and then we set x equal to its current position, which is transform position 0. If you don't understand this expression here, I've got a training series coming up in the next couple of weeks on expressions, so feel free to check that out on vfxbro.com in a couple of weeks. But basically all I'm going to go into here is we have this expression here, which is 9.8 meters per second squared. That's the equation here that you see in physics, but in expressions in After Effects we have it listed as this equation right here. So that's how we got the falling speed of Zach. And so if we scrub through here, we can see that he just falls down. It's just a single comp of him by himself. And if we look closely into that pre-comp, we can see that it's this footage of Zach falling. And if I take off my key light, you can see that we have this matted out shot underneath Zach. If I take off our mask, you can see what it'll look like. So we were underneath him, keyed it out, and then Zach went through it later and rotoscoped his foot as it overlaps in this area right here, and his hand as it goes out there. So that is how we did that portion of it. So we're going to turn this key light back on. As he started falling, and once he gets to this position right here, we can see that the perspective changes. So kind of a use of movie magic here. We used some motion blur to hide that change, but if we double click in here, we can see that we have the same shot of him falling, and we just used a nice transition here to morph it into this other shot here, and we can see we have him falling from a different perspective because as he gets closer to the ground, the perspective on his body is going to change. And so you can see here that we had a similar shot set up with Zach, and we just got it from a little bit further back. So that's how we got that shot. And now let's go back into our main comp here. After he falls, he hits the car. And at that point, we transition to yet a third shot of him on the car. And you can see he's not here yet because we haven't turned it on. Here we have him on top of the car. And now for this shot, what we did was we very simply motion tracked the front of the car using a planar tracker in Mocha. I have a tutorial. Go ahead and click here for the link on how to do that. But we used a very simple motion tracking. You see here we have this null object that is wonderfully tracking the car, and we have this footage of Zach here that we use to get that. If we turn off our key light and take a look here, we can see that I was actually there blowing a fan on him to make it look as though there was wind pushing him along. And so we just tracked that plate in. Very nice. So that in a couple minutes is how we did the shot here. You can see, here if we leave that chalk on, it looks kind of cool actually. We've got Zach on top of there, and we're just going to turn this mask back on, and there is the shot in its entirety. So that's how we got the jumping on the car shot.